and we're going to get started in just a few minutes. I'm going to give people a few more minutes to log on. Okay, I think we'll get started. Once again, welcome to the CCAN Ocean Acidification Roundtable. This is the fourth one in the series. Today's presentation will be pH sensors from the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE. If you need any technical assistance during the presentation, please type your questions into the question box on the control panel, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. If you can't access using the voice over internet protocol, you can use the number, which is a toll number, so you will be charged, and the number and access code are right there. Okay, I'm your host today. My name is Karen McLaughlin. I'm a senior scientist with the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project Authority. We are a public agency which is providing unbiased scientific information to water quality managers in California, with a special focus on Southern California. And I'm very pleased to introduce today's featured speakers. Today we will have Jyotika Virmani, who is the Senior Director at XPRIZE. During the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE, Jyotika was the Technical Director for the prize. Her role was to plan, coordinate, and oversee all technical aspects of the competition, from setting up the competition sites, working with the validation team to get the validation data for the sensors, basically the standard for which they were rated against, coordinating with the judges and the science advisory panel, and talking, like she's doing today, to scientific and technical audiences and much, much more. We will also be hearing from Matt Huelsenbeck, who is the prize manager for XPRIZE. As the prize manager, he was doing all the team relations and organizing the post-prize impact activities, organizing resources and opportunities for the teams, and conducting project management for each phase of the competition. Today's format: first you'll hear from Jyotika and Matt about the pH sensors and their experiences with the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health Prize. I will follow up with a discussion on the regulatory monitoring post-prize competition. We will have time for a Q&A, and then we'll just adjourn. I also want to make sure to acknowledge Laura Francis and Jennifer Mitz for all their help coordinating today's webinar. So we hope you really enjoy it. Finally, if you have any questions, you can type them in at any time during the presentation. And again, that question box is located on the right-hand side of your screen. Today's presentation will be archived as video and PDF on the CCAN website, on the workshops page. The website's right there. You are also welcome to contact the wonderful Diane Pleschner-Steele at dplesh@gmail.com if you have any questions about the CCAN. Our next discussion is still being organized, and you can learn more about it from the CCAN listserv, and you can sign up for the listserv by visiting the CCAN list page. So with that, I will hand over the presentation to Jyotika so she can get started.
Thank you, Karen, for the great introduction and for inviting us to be a part of this. So yes, I want to tell you all about XPRIZE, the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE, how we did the testing, and some of the the winning teams and some of the other innovations that came out of this competition. I want to start, though, with this quote, that the problems of the world cannot possibly be solved by skeptics or cynics whose horizons are limited by obvious realities. We need people who can dream of things that never were. And this is actually kind of a keystone quote for XPRIZE. So what we do here, for those of you who are not familiar with this, is we drive innovation by designing and managing high-profile global competitions to address some of the grand challenges for the world. Like I said, our prizes do target grand challenges. They also target market failures. And in running these XPRIZE competitions, we engage innovators from around the world, and we partner with top global brands, philanthropists, organizations, and ultimately we make the impossible possible. It's actually based on a long tradition of prize competitions to incentivize and speed up technologies. So just a very brief history on how we kind of started was our founder, Peter Diamandis, was given a book on the spirit of St. Louis. And in that was described the Orteig Prize, which was a New York, was a French hotelier who was based in New York and wanted to travel across the Atlantic in the early 1900s faster than ships could take him. So he put up $25,000, which was quite a lot of money back in the day, for anyone who could fly across the Atlantic. And 9 teams spent over $400,000 to try and win that prize. 6 people did lose their lives in the effort. However, it was won in 1926, I believe, by a then unknown pilot called Charles Lindbergh, who flew across the Atlantic from the US side to France, and his flight kick-started what we now know as the commercial aviation industry. So whenever you get onto a plane in the future, that is really from a prize competition. So reading that book, after reading that book, Peter, he's always had an ambition since childhood to go into space, and so he thought he would do the same thing to try and open up space travel for just anybody and everybody. So in 1996, he started this venture, and the first XPRIZE was the Ansari Space XPRIZE, and it was a $10 million prize purse, and the goal for the teams were to get a 3-person crew up to 100 kilometers altitude in 2 weeks, 2 flights within 2 weeks, and they were not to be publicly funded. They were all privately funded teams. Someone did win that in 2004, and it transformed how people thought about space travel. So these prize competitions not only spur innovation and technology, but they also change how people think. They raise awareness of the issue. Sometimes they change regulations. So it really wasn't for governments anymore. There was a lot of media and a lot of press, and I think later Matt's going to talk about some of that in regards to the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE. Spaceship One was the winning technology from that, and if you're ever in DC, the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum has that hanging next to the Spirit of St. Louis, so you can stop by and see that. We currently have a prize portfolio. We've awarded $30 million already, and the latest one was the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. We currently have an active portfolio of $90 million in XPRIZes, ranging from space to medical, education, and the environment. The last one that was launched was the NRG COSIA Carbon XPRIZE, and teams there are being challenged to convert carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into some economically valuable product. And you can find out more on that from carbon.xprize.org. So, the reason we're here, the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE, this was a $2 million competition split into 2 prize purses, $1 million for the accuracy purse, and that was for sensors, very accurate sensors that would give scientists the ability to measure ocean acidification in the deep ocean, essentially throughout the world's oceans. And the other $1 million was an affordability purse for affordable and easy to use sensors that would provide the tools that were necessary to track and respond to ocean acidification. And the bar there was manufacturing cost of $1,000 or less. So the teams were asked, like I said, to produce accurate and affordable pH sensors, and they were tested under a number of different conditions that mimicked the ocean environment, from the coastal to the deep sea. There were a number of intended breakthroughs that we hope to achieve with this XPRIZE. In addition to inspiring innovations in the ocean sensing technology arena, we also want to catalyze ocean acidification research, catalyze the ocean services industry, and inspire the public to engage. And Matt's going to talk about that later as part of the post-prize industry activities. This competition was launched in September of 2013, and we made the award in July of this year. And we had, as you can see from this, a number of different test phases. The first actual test phase was the lab trials, then we moved on to coastal trials and ended with deep sea trials. The judging criteria, we had a number of them. For the accuracy prize purse, we did require sensors to go down to 3,000 meters. Because that's one of the areas where we didn't really have sensors that could go down to those kind of depths. For the affordability purse, I already mentioned that they had to have a manufacturing cost of less than $1,000. And then we had a number of different accuracy, precision, stability, and we also judged them on their ease of use. 77 teams had expressed an intent to compete when we started registration for this prize. 24 actually registered, and then when we got to the test phase, we had 16 teams competing. They came from 8 different countries and a variety of different backgrounds. Of course, we had professional oceanographers and engineers, but we also had people from the food industry, and we had a sensor that was adapted from soil agriculture. So that's the other thing we find about XPRIZE competitions, is it's open to anybody, and so sometimes you get great ideas coming from outside the field of expertise that is trying to address. We had a number of different types of approaches for the pH sensors: colorimetric, sphere-optode, glass electrode, and we also had a hybrid one, which I'll show you later. The first testing was done at Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute in Moss Landing in California, where we did the very accurate and precise trials. This was the first time we met our teams. That was a great couple of days to meet them in person. We had 16 of them. Between them, they had 19 different pH sensors. This is the first time we saw those entries. The first time the validation team saw those entries. They had to learn how to operate them because, as I said, we were testing for ease of use, and so they were part of that. And we did 2 different phases of testing at MBARI. The first was in a cold room where we tested for very high levels of accuracy. The second phase was in the MBARI test tank. For those of you who've been there, it's a large pool where you can test scientific and engineering equipment for the ocean. We did an electrical and interference and ozone test there as well. We deployed the entries there for, it was about 52 days at the end of the whole that test phase. And here is a picture. I call this my sensor Zen garden, as they hang there in the tank, very still and beautiful. The next phase of testing was done at the Seattle Aquarium in Washington, and that was coastal trials off Puget Sound. And so we had a tank that was designed and built for us by Seattle Aquarium engineers and the validation team, and that pumped in Puget Sound water throughout essentially a 1-month trial. And so the sensors were hung in this tank, and you can see it's a very long tank, and the validation team are hanging sensors there. They were hung there for 30 days, and throughout those 30 days they were exposed to the varying conditions of Puget Sound. During this phase they were tested for precision stability, as well as for the cost and the ease of use, because after this, this was the last phase for the affordability prize purse contestants. The final phase was purely for the accuracy prize purse contestants, and for that, the deep sea trials, we went to Hawaii and went on the RV Kilo Moana, operated by the University of Hawaii Marine Center, and we sailed to a location to Station Aloha, actually north of Hawaii, where we had 5 final teams competing, and all the sensors were mounted on the same rosette and deployed in incremental stages down to 3,000 meters. And during this, we were testing for accuracy, precision, and their ease of use at sea. So, after all that testing, we did have the award ceremony in July in New York, and the winners were, first place went to Sunburst Sensors in Missoula, Montana, who won actually for 2 entries, one for the affordability purse and one for the accuracy purse. Of course, the interesting thing is that they are from Montana, and so I think the people of Montana are now very aware that there is an ocean out there, and there is, you know, money potentially to be made from that, and they're also aware of ocean acidification. Second place for the accuracy purse went to Team Durafet. This was a conglomeration of people from Embari, Honeywell, Seabird. They had a number of different entries. Many people have used the CFET and continued to use the CFET. The winning entry in this case was the Deep Sea Durafet, which they are now producing. They actually donated their money, the $250,000, to the Argo program, which Matt will go into as part of the post-prize activities as well. And then the second place for the affordability purse went to A&B Sensors in the UK, and they are actually now working on their second prototype of this, and I believe Matt and possibly Karen will talk about this one as well, because this is also going to be tested at SWRP. There were some other innovations, though, that came out of this competition beyond the high-quality pH sensors that may be adapted for other ocean sensing. But before I get to those, I just want to mention the third place in accuracy went to the team from Japan, HPHS. They actually have a hybrid sensor that uses both optical and colorimetric techniques to allow for rapid and accurate sensing under various conditions. So that was a very interesting approach that they took. So some of the other interesting innovations, this sensor, this is Team Optode, Optode Team Austria from Austria, again also a landlocked country. They didn't do as well in the pH measurement piece itself, but they are working on fine-tuning that. But their device is essentially as big as your cell phone. So it's very small, handheld. They did get highest marks for ease of use, and so and I believe they can put different kinds of sensors on that device. So that was a very interesting innovation. And then there was SmartFin, who have a pH sensor. Again, they're working on the pH sensor itself, but this was innovative because it can go on a surfboard fin. So if you're a surfer, this kind of technology would be great, especially in very shallow waters. But it's operated by a smartphone, which you can see in one of the pictures. So it's turned on by a smartphone, the data is downloaded, it goes automatically to a website. It's very easy to use so long as you have a good, strong Wi-Fi signal. And then beyond the innovation, there were a couple of education outcomes from this. This was a team from Duke University, Blue Devil Ocean Engineering, and one of these gentlemen here was doing an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, and just as an enthusiastic group of students, they got together and formed a little class to enter this competition. Their professors that they cajoled into working with them actually made this a formal class and said that they wouldn't get a grade unless they had a working sensor by the end of the semester. This was actually one that they adapted. This was the one that I referred to earlier from soil technology. So each of those bars at the top are different metals that are used to try and detect pH in soil, and they try to adapt this for the ocean environment. They entered this competition, you know, not really expecting to win, However, it was a phenomenal education tool, and I believe Duke University is now continuing that class as part of their curriculum. But one of these gentlemen, he was doing a mechanical engineering undergraduate degree and has just started his PhD in ocean engineering at the Woods Hole MIT Joint Program. And then we also had a high school student team that entered based on their knowledge of chemistry from their class. Very low cost sensor. They did make it through to the Seattle trials. And again, it was great for them for education purposes. And they got to meet and talk to the pH experts from around the world. This sensor, as you can see, they molded from resin. It does look like a ray gun, as they are demonstrating in one of these pictures. So they had a lot of fun. I think they learned a lot, and I'm sure we'll see them again. And so I think with that, this is a picture, actually, I'll just tell you what this picture shows, is an underwater image of the rosette during the deep sea trials with all the sensors mounted on top, on one side, which on the bottom down there. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. Let's see. Okay. There you
All right, hello everyone. This is Matt Huelsenbeck. I'm a prize manager at XPRIZE, and I work on the oceans team with Jyotika, as well as we had Paul Bungie on this prize as well, who you may know. Appreciate you guys organizing this call. To Jen, Karen, and Laura, thank you guys very much. It's been great working with SQUIRP on some of these post-prize activities that we're going to talk about today. So when we award an XPRIZE, that's not the end of our work. We do follow up and try to offer opportunities and otherwise to the teams to make sure that we have the impact in the world that we're seeking. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, all the activities that we've taken since we did the award ceremony in July. So some of the goals of the post-prize activities are awareness and public relations. We really want to get the message out about this prize, as well as the technologies that are developed in it and the teams that might be able to provide those technologies. We want to get pH sensors used around the world to monitor ocean acidification. That's really the grand challenge that we were tackling. So we want to catalyze more ocean acidification research and more groups to be able to use this. So we're collaborating with government agencies, and we're looking to build on some partnerships that we've done, but building on that to operate with governments around the world, as well as here in the U.S. And outside of just the sensors, we're trying to do more in terms of organizing and broadcasting ocean big data. We're going to talk about a workshop that we just did at Oceans 15, a really interesting discussion that we had about some ways that we might do that. We'll talk about those today. Pretty fun stuff. And lastly, we're trying to get these sensors in the water. We're trying to do additional testing. The prize is not the last of the development. You can think about your iPhone. You come out with a new one each year. We're hoping the pH sensors do something similar. So we want to continuously improve these. So testing and deployment of the sensors is a huge benefit to the teams. Providing that for free is a huge benefit. So one of the things XPRIZE does very well is getting the word out about our prizes and the winners. So the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE Awards ceremony attracted a lot of attention. I'm going to talk about the numbers in a second, but it was huge. It was one of our biggest hits to date. And you'll see Jim Beck, who I think is on the call here today, in the white shirt there in the middle, standing with Al Roker. So Wake Up with Al, a Weather Channel show that has about 3 million people that tune in the mornings. I'm pretty sure this is probably the first ocean sensor that's been on a morning show. I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty confident there. So it's got a ton of press in all sorts of science and technology magazines all throughout the world. And then afterwards, even after the award ceremony, there were several accolades that got put onto our winners. Popular Mechanics, 2015 Popular Mechanics Award, as well as a Tech Insider 40 top 40 most exciting innovations of the year. So these are big time awards for engineers. and really great stories written about them. And as Jyotika mentioned earlier, everybody really loves the story that Summer Sensors is in Montana and far away from the ocean, which proved to us that anybody can solve the challenges that we're looking at, especially ocean challenges. They don't have to be a coastal organization. It can really come from everywhere. So it was a really cool story for us to tell. In total, the splash was really big from the awards. 3.5 billion total impressions. That's the total amount of people that could have seen a story that was put out there through this through the award ceremony. So that was one of the biggest hits we've ever had, next to the Ansari Prize. The Ansari Prize attracted a ton of attention, and so did our prize. We've only awarded 6 prizes to date, so this was a really big deal for us to have an award and then get the word out on it. So it was a great job on our PR team. We've done several events to follow up on the Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health XPRIZE. A lot of these events have involved us going to Washington, D.C. And so we took 3 of the teams back in June during Capitol Hill Ocean Week. This is even before we awarded the prize. We were doing some outreach. And we went to congressional offices. We did Hill visits in the different offices where these teams are located. And you'll see on the left there that Jim Beck is speaking at his office in Montana about ocean sensors, which was a really great opportunity. And we had Paul Bungie speak on a panel during Capitol Hill Ocean Week as well, and we had a briefing on World Oceans Day with the House Ocean Caucus, which was a great opportunity. In the top, you'll see some young gentlemen in lab coats. That's Team Fine Scale talking at the launch of the Congressional Prize Caucus. So the House of Representatives has launched an entire prize caucus that XPRIZE is helping facilitate for the federal government to actually launch more prize competitions. We are advising them on that. We have a vice president of prize development in Washington, D.C., and he's helped with that effort. So really great opportunity for these young, bright minds to go and talk to some representatives, and apparently I wasn't there that day, but they did an excellent job. In the bottom, you're going to see Oceans 15. That's Rick Spinrad, Chief Scientist of NOAA, speaking at a workshop that we held. XPRIZE had both a workshop and a panel, and we had several of our teams come and speak on a panel. And that Oceans 15 event was really fun. It was a whole day that we talked about how to organize and broadcast ocean big data into useful products. We had some really great ideas for doing that, and I'm going to talk about how we're going to build on some of those ideas in the future. But it was a blue sky day where people get to express their opinions and express their ideas. It was just really fun. We also did some fun events. There was South by Southwest Eco down in Austin after the prize was awarded, and we took Jim Beck, you'll see there, on a chair next to Paul Bungie, our prize lead, and had a really fun day. You'll also see that we're really active on social media and trying to build that presence. We would like to get the word out in every interesting way that we can, so you can always follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and otherwise at XPRIZE. So we always talk about our oceans prizes within our larger suite. One of the really cool stories to me is that 2 of our teams both donated some or all of their winnings from the prize to noble causes. And Team Durafet donated all of their winnings, the $250,000 that they won in second place of the accuracy course, to the University of Washington, as Jyotika mentioned earlier. And University of Washington is really happy about this because they're going to use the money to incorporate pH sensors into their Argo floats. If you're not familiar with the Argo float system, it's about 4,000 of these floats that sink down, float back to the surface, and put data back, pump data back to satellites. And now they're going to put pH on roughly 40 of the Argo floats. And right now they have 10 that are working okay, 10 to 20 that are working okay. They're going to expand that network to about 40. So it'll be 40 ocean pH sensors profiling around the clock, which is really great. And then secondly, not to be outdone, maybe there's a little competition between these 2 teams after the prize. Summer Sensors donated $10,000 of their winnings to a small climate group in Missoula, Montana. So I think both of these teams really liked foam checks. I think that's what they took away from the prize. We taught them the foam check game. So we're trying to get more of these sensors out there into the field, and we're working with the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project, which is one of our most exciting opportunities. To get them, we've had 4 sensors in their hands. Karen's going to talk about that in a minute in detail. But we've been working with Catlin Seaview Survey. We're trying to get them to use pH sensors alongside what they're doing is visualizing a bunch of coral reefs around the world, taking amazing 360-degree videos and images of these coral reefs, and we want them to use pH sensors alongside that to be able to match it up, understand how corals may be impacted by pH. We're also working with the Australian government, the Australian Institute of Marine Science, down in Australia to possibly do a deployment in next year surrounding the Oceans in a High CO2 World Conference, which we'd like to have a presence at. And then one of the fun things that Jim Beck, the winner, just told us about was an interesting deployment. A man is swimming from Tokyo to San Francisco to raise awareness about environmental issues, and he's going to be doing some citizen science along the way. He's taking one of the winning pH sensors, the ISAMI, the winner of the affordability purse, a modified version. He's going to be taking with him. Obviously, he has to get out while he's swimming, and there's going to be a support vessel, and it's going to be having a winning pH sensor on it. So we're trying to do some popularity around that. The last thing I forgot to take out, but we had been in some early discussions with NASA, and we'll see if this ever happens. But it's that's a fun one. It's probably not going to end up on Europa, but we'll see. And lastly, I think some of you know this because you're involved with some of these efforts, but there are really significant gaps around the world. On the West Coast, pretty great in terms of deployed moorings that have ocean acidification observing on them. But you'll see around Africa, there's a huge gap, a massive gap, and that's an entire continent that depends a lot on marine resources. So we are working with a public-private partnership to try and possibly get several of the winning sensors out there off of East Africa for the first time. So that'll be a great opportunity. And then, as I spoke about earlier, we did this workshop where we discussed different options for broadcasting ocean big data. And the government's collecting more and more ocean data all the time. We want to get it into really cool apps, really cool products into people's hands to start making some money and create this feedback loop where they're interested in getting more information, more good information from sensors, from good sensors, and it just serves that entire ocean services industry. That's really the entire goal of all of our prizes, is to support this ocean services field. And we are looking at a couple different groups to help us do that. HeroX is an affiliate of XPRIZE. It's the for-profit spinoff of XPRIZE. We're the biggest stakeholders in that group, so we may do it through them. Or Top Coder, which has 850,000 coders around the world that love to get their hands on data sets and turn them into cool apps and opportunities. So we're looking at a smaller competition that may launch in 2016 surrounding that, so stay tuned. And then lastly, this is the pitch to all of you, but we would like to get these pH sensors into many different groups' hands. Government agencies, academics, citizen scientists. We'd really like shellfish farmers and fishermen to start using this. There could be different tourism groups that are interested in how their coastal waters are being impacted by pH, and nonprofit groups. There's all sorts of different nonprofits that are interested in ocean acidification. So you can contact us, as well as going on to the website, xprize.org, and you can navigate to our page. We have a team page that describes the teams really great and has a link to their websites as well. But we're happy to facilitate those contacts, but you can always reach out to them individually and get some really amazing pH sensors. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hand this off to Karen.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the post-prize competition that Matt was just talking about. So this is the XPRIZE regulatory monitoring post-prize competition. It's a partnership between XPRIZE and SWRP as well as SWRP's member agencies. So for those of you not familiar with regulatory monitoring, basically anyone that wants to discharge any sort of wastewater into the coastal ocean in California is subject to the California Ocean Plan, which states that there shall not be degradation of marine communities or water quality due to waste discharges, and has specific language regarding pH. It says pH shall not be changed at any time by more than 0.2 units from that which occurs naturally. Now that's a little hazy because it's hard to say what is natural, but I'm going to focus a little bit on this 0.2 units because there's a really big problem in that front, and that is basically that the available technology cannot meet that regulatory standard. So right now, what our member agencies are using to monitor pH on their regulatory monitoring grids are glass pH electrodes. And the stated accuracy of glass electrodes is 0.2 pH units, which sounds a lot familiar because that's the same as the Ocean Plan standard. And if you look at this graph on the right-hand side here, the actual performance is really much less than 0.2. So I'm showing you here, this is the percent of samples that our member agencies have measured against a reference pH, and this is that difference on the y-axis. It's just a histogram. And you can see that most of our samples are actually falling within plus or minus 0.5 pH units. So we are nowhere near anywhere being able to measure pH as accurately as we need to meet those regulatory standards. So there was a huge opportunity here to test some of these XPRIZE sensors, which have been, the whole goal of the XPRIZE was to develop more accurate sensing technology that was actually easy to use by any non-professional oceanographers in a regulatory monitoring application. So 4 of SWRP's member agencies, the sanitation districts of Los Angeles County, the City of LA, Orange County, and the City of San Diego, they've been seeking better ways to monitor pH, and we've been trying a number of different strategies. The one we are currently working on is using discrete in situ pH collected from bottle measurements to try to calibrate in situ the glass electrodes, which it's working a little bit, but it's still not good enough to meet those regulatory standards. So we were hoping that we would be able to partner with XPRIZE to get some of these new technologies directly into the hands of users who have an immediate need for sensing of pH for regulatory monitoring. So the competition is just to develop an easy-to-use, rapidly profiling sensor for coastal regulatory monitoring. Now, none of our regulatory, or none of the member agencies monitor anywhere below 200 meters, so this is a pretty coastal system with rapidly changing pH. The descent rate of their rosettes is 1 meter per second, so that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get a sensor that can measure that quickly, or changes in pH that quickly. So we're basically evaluating 4 instruments that XPRIZE selected that were at least somewhere near the range of what our member agencies needed for their monitoring, based on their performance during the initial competition. Our sanitation district member agencies are deploying these instruments during their regulatory monitoring. They go out quarterly. So they started in last August, and they'll be sampling 3 quarters for this particular competition. So they're actively out right now sampling. In fact, I wanted them to give this presentation, but they're all on their vessels right now sampling pH with these XPRIZE sensors. Our standard is twofold. So we have the glass electrodes on their Seabird CTDs, and then we're also collecting discrete bottle pH measurements that are measured spectrophotometrically at Andrew Dixon's lab at Scripps. So we'll have those very accurate pH values as a reference at certain points. At the end of the competition, we'll have the sanitation districts and SWRP will provide feedback directly on these technologies. How easy were they to use? How was their accuracy? What potential changes that could be made to these sensors to improve them in this particular context to determine the winning sensor. And we have our 4 sensing competition teams were actually the winning sensors were sunburst sensor, A&B sensor, which is providing a nice low-cost profiling instrument that is actually pretty close to meeting that descent rate. And then TAME cross-straight from China, which is also pretty good. and Team Sinden, which was helping had that same sort of ability to monitor that rapid descending. So again, our competition is underway. The sensor deployments began last August and will continue through February 2016. The final assessment reports will be made for each competing sensor sometime in the spring following that February sampling. So we'll have the 3/4 of sensing data, but we have 4 agencies and 4 instruments. So we're going to have an additional cruise later in the spring where we have all 4 sensors competing at the exact same time on the same rosette, the same discrete samples. So that will be just one other measure in addition to our quarterly monitoring tests. And then we expect to be able to announce the winning sensor sometime in the summer of 2016. And these are some pictures of the training exercises that the teams came. We actually had visitors from Team Sinden and Team Cross-Strait come to SQUIRT to train us on their instruments. And then we did webinars with sunburst sensors and A&B sensors to try to have them. And it's been a very interactive experience, so it's a little bit different from the main XPRIZE competition. There's been a lot of back and forth with the developers of these pH sensors, and they're actively trying to improve them for this particular application. So it's been a really great experience for our member agencies and for hopefully for the developers too. It's worth their time. But we really appreciate the effort, and it's been really positive so far. So if you have any questions about the post-prize competition, you're welcome to contact me. My contact information is on screen right now. So please feel free to either send me an email or give me a call. I'll be happy to answer any questions related to that. So with that, I think we will move into question and answer phase. I'm going to pass the presentation back to Jyotika. Okay, so Jyotika and Matt, if you're on, I can start asking you questions. You guys back online?
Hello, I'm here.
All right, great. Okay, so we have some questions from the audience. Okay, so the first question is, what goals in public education do you have for this project? This is from Taylor Morrison. I think her particular interest is in K-12.
Okay. So Matt, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure.
It's part of the Ocean Initiative as well, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, so we have some education goals that we're working on right now, and all of our prizes obviously have the kind of outreach and general goals. But we are trying to prioritize what we're going to do next within the broader Ocean Initiative, which is our plan for more ocean-based XPRIZes, as well as things outside the prizes, like education and thought leadership. So some of those events you saw is sort of the thought leadership stuff we're doing. But we are looking for new partners and new ideas and new opportunities to do education. We did several of our testing phases at places we knew that we would have high attendance, like Seattle Aquarium, where they took tours of the facilities themselves and showed kids the pH sensors. And one of the kids famously said, "Science is cool." He went to see that. But we have no real structured program within the prizes themselves. We just try to make opportunities for that through our partners for the most part. So happy to engage anyone who would like to do more education around these prizes. And we're going to continue doing Ocean XPRIZes here. So we'd love to grow the program. Thanks for the question.
Okay, great. The next question is from Francisco Navarrete-Meyer, and he asks, we are starting to set up a lab to develop or to study ocean acidification in a developing country, so our economic resources are very limited. Which system could you recommend for us to analyze accurate pH?
So I will take that one. Actually, the 2 prize winners for the affordability prize purse. So not only were we looking, of course, for ease of use and the fact that it costs less than $1,000 to manufacture, but they were actually also assessed for accuracy, precision, and stability. So I would go with probably contacting those two teams directly, because that's you can talk to them about the availability and final cost and stuff. But they were also assessed on those other criteria, and they all met a minimum standard that they all had to pass.
Thank you. The next question is from Adrienne Bratz, and she was sort of expressing disbelief in the fact that it takes 5 years to come up with an answer. Is that fairly typical?
Yeah, I think that may be referring to the carbon XPRIZE that I mentioned. The ocean health one we launched in 2013, and we did the award this year, so that was 2 years. But the carbon one is, I believe, a 4 or 5 year competition. It's a bigger and different kind of challenge. The prize purse for that, I think, is $20 million. And so I think maybe that's what was being looked at. But if they want to just email and send a note to say that that was the page, then we can confirm that.
Great, thanks. So the next question is, do you see a role for citizen scientists, students, or educators to use these new pH sensors?
Yes, this is Matt. I'll take that question. That's a great question. And several of our teams had a strong focus on doing citizen science, in which we're supporting after the prize, including the surfers. If you saw that slide that Jyotika showed, our team SmartFin wants to put ocean pH sensors on the bottom of the surfboards and monitor it that way. So that's a cool approach. We'd love to get more groups engaged, and some of them, they just have to step forward and say, we want a pH sensor. We're happy to help them do that. But we haven't dedicated resources or time in terms of building out our own program. So we're kind of depending on people to want to use the pH sensors and get them out in the field. But I think it's a very excellent opportunity for more groups. I mean, citizen science is growing in general, as you know, but in the ocean field, it's been a little bit slower to catch up. So we need more ocean users. We hear it from people throughout the life of the prize. How can I get my hands on one? But whether they actually get one and whether they use it and use it correctly and then distribute that data, that's a harder process to do because sometimes the sensors need some work or they need to be traded in. So how do you develop kind of a Netflix model of sending back the DVDs or sending back the sensors when they need maintenance, those kind of things? Those are some of the challenges of doing the citizen science initiatives, but shouldn't be huge drawbacks. So if anybody has any suggestions, again, happy to talk further about them. There's some great opportunity there.
And actually, I just want to also add the interesting thing about the surfboard fin was it's motion activated, so it potentially could be adapted to boats and other in the water motion activity. So there is a potential for adaptation there.
Okay, thanks. So the next question is for the deep ocean accurate sensors. How soon will they be ready for purchase, and how much will they cost? And how confident are we that they can withstand long-term deployments in the open ocean?
Very good question. So we would actually recommend contacting the manufacturers or the teams directly for that. I can say that both the Sunburst and the Deep Sea Durafet are being manufactured, and so I don't know what the timeline is for actual purchase, but we can certainly put you in touch with people who can answer that question directly, as well as how much they will cost when it gets to purchase price. Regarding how confident are we that we can withstand a long-term deployment in the open ocean, well, we tested them. So first of all, we know they can go down to 3,000 meters depth. HPHS that came in third place have actually just I think it was in August, or no, actually it was in June, sorry, did deploy their device for a year off the coast of Japan, and so they are very confident that it can stay down there for that length of time. We did also test, like I said, all of them in the Mbari test tank for 52 days, and of course they all survived that length because we were testing for precision and stability over a longer time period. And the deep sea Durafets that are going on the Argo floats, they I think are expected to be out there for 2 years at least. So so they're also pretty confident that they could be out there for a long period of time.
Okay, great. The next question is there any interest or talk of sensors to measure other carbonate chemistry parameters like BIC, alkalinity, etc., and to try to make saturation state data more accessible?
So there is talk, and in fact I think some of these are in prototype stages, and I think at least one of our teams is looking at making another sensor to address one of these other carbonate chemistry parameters. So those are definitely on the table. The reason that pH was chosen was because I believe in early 2013 it may have been late 2012, but Wendy Schmidt came to XPRIZE, and we had a workshop here with a number of experts from around the world, scientists who looking at ocean acidification, and collectively they decided that the most immediate need and the biggest gap right now was to measure pH, and so that's how this particular sensor competition was born. So it really was based on the scientific viewpoint, the global scientific viewpoint.
Great. The next question is, what is the purse for the post-prize competition?
I think we got to pitch that one to you, Karen.
I don't think there actually is a purse. I think that the incentive is fame and fortune. I think it's largely putting the ability to have your instrument directly in the hands of someone that would buy it. So our member agencies are basically ready to buy these instruments. So I think that is sort of the purse incentive. The incentive is already developed. So as far as I know, that's the prize, fame and fortune. So then the next question is, this is Michelle Heller from the Ocean Foundation. In terms of capacity building for developing countries, particularly Africa, which of your winning sensors would you recommend for a project in which we would train local scientists to operate and deploy sensors to begin their own long-term monitoring programs, and what is the learning curve for these sensors?
So I would actually do a twofold approach there. First of all, of course, the easy to use is a criteria if you're going to train others that I would look at. How easy are these sensors to use? Because presumably there'll be, a certain amount of training period, and then everyone's on their own. But then also, what's the scientific need? So do they want shallow water? Do they need deep water? In which case, some of the deep water sensors may be a bit more complicated to use, but obviously they do, people would have to be trained up to use them if that was the scientific need. I'm hoping that will address the question there.
Great. I think I can also answer something about the learning curves based on our member agency participation. It's pretty broad. Some of them are super easy to use. You basically just plug them in and they're ready to go. And some of them are a little bit more difficult. So I think there's a lot of room to meet whatever need the user may have.
And actually, regarding the ease of use, although it's not currently available as a pH sensor, I did mention some of the innovations and the winning team on the ease of use category, Opto Team Austria. Theirs was also extremely easy to use, to the point of essentially plug and play with GUI and stuff like that. So hopefully at some point that will also become available in the future.
So the next question is, how well do the winning sensors work at salinities less than 30 ppm?
That's a really good question. We did, obviously test them in coastal waters at Puget Sound. I don't remember off the top of my head what the exact salinity was, but I think it was less than 30. So, and they did, the winning sensors worked really well throughout that time period. Obviously, in coastal waters, you have more issues with biofouling and stuff like that. However, everyone passed, the winning sensors passed the minimum standards for that particular phase.
So there's a question here about whether or not the material will be available after today. Yes, it will be available. Eventually it will be on the CCAN website. If you need it before that, you should feel free to email me, KarenM@squirt.org. I think that information was on this. It was just in the chat. Right. So please feel free to contact us if you want some of this information for your own.
And I'll just add to that, Karen, for Vanessa who asked that question, we'd be happy to talk with your undergraduates. We love doing that kind of stuff. So please contact us as well. You can use what we put out there today, but we definitely love talking to undergrads about our prizes as well.
And can I just actually add a note to that? What I haven't mentioned is we are gearing up to launch a new Ocean XPRIZE. It's in a completely different realm of oceanography. It's to do with mapping and discovery. And as I showed in this one, we did have an undergraduate student team that competed. We had a high school team that competed. So even if it's not for an Ocean XPRIZE, but go to the XPRIZE website, the open competitions are open to any age group, basically.
There's also one question here about the postcards competition. Is it being tested in estuarine waters? No, it is not. We are testing the sensors on the continental shelf here in Southern California, so the swimmies are all well over 30. And I think that's all the questions that I have. If anybody has any last-minute questions, we'll wait a moment to see if they get uploaded into the chat box. But otherwise, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today, and please pay attention to the CCAN listserv, and we will definitely let you guys know about the next webinar. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, Matt and Jyotika,
Thank you.
and Jen.